Hello, everybody, and we are back. It's been a one. It's been not one for a while, actually, and that is an espresso and geography here in the Coffee and Geography Coffee House. It's all buzzing, and all the gossip is taking place. And I'm sitting down with someone for just 15 minutes to give us some really exciting news and updates. And what an exciting person! To come and talk to me. I haven't spoken to him for a while, so it's great to have you back on the podcast, Dan. Dan Raven-Ellison, here you are. Good to
I'm
see
here.
you.
Great to be with you in the coffee shop, Kit. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. Folks, we're going to mark 15 minutes from now. So, Dan, we got some exciting news from the National City. Let me get this right. National Park City Foundation, because you've added a brand new city to it. So, tell us a bit about this foundation, how it all came about, and your exciting news of this new city that you've joined the
Yeah,
foundation.
yeah, that's right. Chattanooga, Tennessee has just become the first national park city in North America, which is absolutely fantastic news. So, yeah, I used to be a geography teacher. And when I left the classroom, I started working on various different geography projects and interventions and started imagining like we've got these national parks around the world that are glaciers and deserts and rainforests. But what about us that live in cities? Like I was living in London at the time, 15,000 species of wildlife, as many trees as people. So if we value urban life as much as rural life, why wouldn't we assign these fantastic aims and principles of national parks to urban environments? After all, we can protect and create nature and enjoy ourselves outdoors in cities too. London became the first one in 2019 after lots of campaigning and convincing
Yes,
people
remember that.
of that message. Then Adelaide 2 years later, and now Chattanooga
Yeah.
in Tennessee, which is super exciting.
Oh my goodness! And just kind of like because we're on camera, folks. If you're not on if you're listening, I'll describe it to him. If Dan kind of like lifts his chest a bit,
Yeah,
Chattanooga National Park City. I love it. So it's
yeah,
actually there. It's official because Dan's got the T-shirt.
that's
Oh,
it.
so I mean, when you told me this, like I forgot about my apologies. I did forget about Adelaide, that your second one. But when you said you posted online about Chattanooga, I was like, out of all places, out of all places. I mean, because I've been around the States quite a fair bit, and I know there are so many cities out there which are amazing. I mean, like for example, you take for example Kansas City, that's got all the rooftop gardens and the green space on their rooftops, stuff like that. So I was thinking, Chattanooga, that's an interesting one. Come on, you got tell me, how did that come about? Why Chattanooga?
It's awesome, isn't it? I think as well. Like I think that when it was London, it was like okay, big global city, complicated to do, but
Yeah.
maybe makes sense for some people. And then like Adelaide, often voted as like the best, one of the most livable cities in the world, makes sense. And then for America, people would probably think it'd be like Portland or San Francisco. I actually think Washington D.C. would be absolutely fantastic national park city as well. But very few people have heard of Chattanooga in Britain and Europe. It's a small city, about 200,000 people. I actually live in Exeter now, which is about 200,000 people as well. So it's a really small city. But this city has an incredible
Oh,
story, right? So essentially, back in the late 60s, it was the most polluted city in the United States. It's where Coca-Cola was first canned, where there's lots of manufacturing there because it's at a gap
oh
in the
wow.
Appalachian Mountains where there's lots of trains coming through. And basically, the community got together and said, this is gross. We've got to get our act together. They came up with like 1,000 ideas for making their city greener and healthier and better for nature. And then a couple of decades later, they turned things around so much that they've been voted twice over the best outdoor city in the United States. And what people may not know
Wow.
about this particular location is that being at this gap in the Appalachians, it's not only really important for transport, for all this sort of train movement and things, but during the Civil War in the United States, it was a critical gateway between the Confederates and the Unionists because of its
Oh.
location. But it's also this sort of super biodiversity hotspot for the United States, where something like nine tenths of turtles and lots of amphibians and lots of birds are all found within this place, which is essentially because of this gap in the mountains, because of these sort of glacial periods that have come in and then gone, creating this biodiversity hotspot. So why Chattanooga? Well, because they've got this incredible history of doing awesome civic and governmental activities to get people making their city greener, healthier, wilder, which is what national park cities are all about.
Yeah, and I'm just bringing up. I mean, yeah, the kind of that was a beautiful picture that we saw, sir. But then I'm just bringing up the map now, and like just the first image that comes up there. I mean, that's it's quite beautiful. But yeah, look at the geography of this, folks. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is literally. So, what do we used to call them in geography lessons? Gap points, didn't we? Point settlements that settlements that situate themselves in gap points. Yeah, so that's quite clear. Look at, and of course, the Appalachians are beautiful geology. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Look at that.
And I mean, the thing is,
because of the gap, it's that you've got that wildlife corridor as well. Yeah.
for wildlife, for people, for transport. So that's some of the geography of it. But of course, the macro geography of what's going on now as well is we have a situation where, we've got a complicated political situation currently in the United States where things like national parks aren't being supported as they once were. And this is it's a red Republican state in the southern United States. I think for a small city of 200,000 people within a right-leaning, more conservative part of the state doing this work is just really, really, really inspiring. And I think it kind of shows that even though maybe there's a political divide in views and there's a bit of a culture war going on around our choice of language, actually across the aisle, across people want to have greener, healthier neighborhoods. They want to have access to nature. They want children to be able to play outdoors more. These are not politically aligned things. They're things that people want and need in cities. They're necessities. And the fact that it's Chattanooga, this small city, I think means that the likelihood of the national park city idea spreading to other cities around the world is much greater, because most people, most of the billions of people who live in urban areas around the world don't live in somewhere the size of London or Adelaide. They actually live in somewhere roughly the size of Chattanooga.
That's brilliant. And what very well said as well, Dan. Very well said. It just, these kind of initiatives, environmental based initiatives, connecting, people being aware of their space, their geography, and the connection to nature and what it does for the human spirit, stuff like that, is something that should be apolitical and cross political divides and bring people together. And so I think that's a fantastic message that this has happened, and Chattanooga is the place to do it. In all fairness, like I said, maybe I could have expected these other places, but it had to be somewhere like Chattanooga nowadays, didn't it? It had to be somewhere like that. So I think that is a very, very good point, well made. So any final comments about national parks? Any more final comments before we move on?
So just that there are 10 steps and 23 criteria for making a national park city. I was a geography teacher and campaigned for the London National Park City. There are campaigns in Cardiff, Southampton, Glasgow, Belfast. There might be some people listening to this that think, well, actually, I'm in those cities, I'd like to get involved. Or might be thinking, I'm in another city that would be a fantastic national park city. I'm gonna set up a campaign to get it done. And I think that geography teachers are an incredibly powerful position to do this. I mean, fundamentally, the reframing of a city as a national park to get people learning and thinking differently and acting differently about it is actually just a big geography project, isn't it? So if you're listening, then maybe you want to get involved.
There you go, folks. The link to this will be in the description, nationalparkcity.org. Check it out. But that's not the only project that you're involved with. There's something that I wrote a poem about, which I can put a link in the chat as well. And that is the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful slowways. And you've got a fantastic update for this as well. So we've got about 6 minutes left. Come on, update on this. What is slowways and what's this exciting kind of update for us?
So Slowways started off with a really basic insight that, we can get onto Google Maps or we can get onto Citymapper and find an easy way to get from one place to another by public transport or by car. And if things start to go wrong, it tells us a better way to go. But for some reason, even though we've been walking on these islands for hundreds of thousands of years, there's somehow an expectation that you need to have a GCSE in geography or a Duke of Edinburgh award to find your way. And when you think about how we design signage and mapping, it's not inviting, it's not easy to find your way around, especially if you don't know how to read a map, or you've got a disability, or you're a bit older, something like that. So beginning of the pandemic, thousands of people started helping to create this sort of slowways walking network on this. If anyone's looking at this at the moment, there's a map that shows all the verified routes. So these are all the routes that have been drawn, recommended, and triple checked by different volunteers. There's actually about 10,000 routes in the network connecting every town and city and national landscape in the country. So over the last 5 years, that's what we've been building with all these sort of like linear ways to get between towns and cities. The very exciting thing is we've just launched a crowdfunding campaign to update the Slowways platform so that we can do a number of fun things. So firstly, we're going to have connecting millions more places, millions more people. We're going to be adding cycling and wheeling and horse riding and other ways of getting around as well.
Oh, wow.
At the moment, they were just linear routes, but we're going to be adding loops in as well. And the really exciting thing, I think, for schools is we're going to be giving groups and schools and organizations the ability to create their own networks that meet their own needs. So let's imagine, for example, you are teaching year sevens and you want to do like a biology geography mashup to explore nature in the local area, and working whether with just with your staff or maybe with parents as well. You wanted to have your own network sharing family friendly nature rich routes in your local area, then you could do that. So then imagine then that means that parents and kids can come on at the weekends to go and like connect with nature and have the confidence to go and do that. But then imagine if your neighboring schools did that, and then the other neighboring schools and other neighboring schools, we could create a year seven family friendly nature rich network of routes. But then we could do the same for history. We could do the same for, I don't know, maybe we want to do something for sort of some sort of particular niche area of geography. But we can imagine how we can create these specialist networks where, yes, we're using the same paths, but what we're drawing out is that there could be many different reasons to walk the same path. And most of those apps out there that are doing similar things are basically mostly interested in able-bodied fit people getting fitter. Or people who just want to have a utilitarian walk. They're not really interested in specialist interests. And many of us who are geographers know the power of looking at a place and looking at a route through a particular lens. And so I think that idea of, as a staff team or even young people creating their own routes for their own purposes is really powerful. So we're crowdfunding at the moment to build this platform. It's super affordable to join in, and the more people who get involved, the better.
Wow.
It's cool, right?
That's amazing. And, you know, like, we know this is a break from regular programming at Espresso and Geography, but folks, if you've been with us for the whole season, isn't that describing exactly the kind of thing that we've been talking about all season, about climate ambassadors, climate action for schools and climate action plans? So listen, teachers, schools, build this into your climate action plan. Yeah? How about in your climate action plan, have it as a target, as an aspiration to contribute, build a slowways network around from your school, connect to your local schools. You know, so I've just pulled up the one here. This is Norlod, and I know we talked about. I'll put a link in the chat again, folks. When we had the chat about when this was all set up and how all the naming conventions came out, but Norlod is like Norwich and Loddon together. So because this goes through where I used to teach, so I used to teach here. And, you know, and this connects the high school, and this will connect, you know, Alpington Primary, Buracton Primary, all the way down to Loddon, Hobart High School. You know, I'm just thinking but you see that Stoke Holy Cross, Poyland Primary, I think is like here. You see, they're not quite connected. So you folks over here, right, let's get cracking on this. Let's get a little school kind of pathway, because I know there's some around here. There's a beautiful one down the Shotsham. Oh, that's a gorgeous walk. Right, so you folks at Shotsham Primary, can we have some little tendrils that connects to Norlod 1? Come on, it can be done, it can be done. That's my challenge for my old school catchment area. Yeah, that sounds brilliant, Dan. So again, folks, the link to that fundraiser will be in the description. I'll make sure it all goes out on social media as well. Please make sure you do that. Right, Dan, we've got a minute left. Anything else we didn't catch, or anything else you'd like to say, either about national city parks or slowways?
Yeah, just that I think that it's really fun to think about these big geography projects we can do together. And I think that with this new slowways project, you know, one of the questions we've got around it is saying, you know, primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, NHS teams, local community centres, charities, clubs, societies. When was the last time we all got together and made something together? And the answer is, well, we never have, actually, right? But creating these networks for walkers, reelers, runners is something we can all do together by doing our individual parts and adding up into something bigger. And I think that quite often, people talk a lot about citizen science as a thing that people can do. I think we're talking far more about citizen geography. Citizen science tends to, I think, be a bit more passive. Let's go and observe stuff and then just report on it. Tends to be the vibe. Whereas citizen geography can be, how can we make places better by better understanding it? And actually, just the humble thing of creating a walking route or wheeling route can do that, because it can help with understanding, but it can also help improve well-being, creativity, reduce emissions, all these fantastic things that walking and wheeling around the place can do for us. So
yeah,
this is a big geography project. Join in is kind of what I'm saying. Yeah, it's fun.
It is. And as ex-GA president and friend of the show, Alan Parker would say, quotidian geography, everyday geography. Let's use it, folks. We all geographers if you take it quotidian. So, Dan, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you again on behalf of, lots of people, of all the work that you and your team are doing, which is making a real difference for your vision and everything like that. So, congrats to you and the team and all this stuff. And please, folks, donate. So I'm going to get on that myself. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Kit.